Well, just let me say again, if I can put people at ease, which with Kali breathing down my neck is not always the easiest thing for me to do. But I don't have anything against Christians as people, and I grew up with Christians, and some of my most beloved friends that I left behind in the United States, wonderful people. What I have, I'm on the rampage, and I'm on the warpath to utterly destroy the belief system that Christians hold, the ideology of salvation and the Messiah. And so that's what I hate, and that's what I protest, the belief system and the behaviors that are based on that belief system, but not the people who demonstrate those behaviors. It's very difficult to walk that line. It is a tightrope, and it takes not only compassion, but sobriety and balance. The incarnate really had a difficult time with me because I think it was pretty clear that I had no animosity against Christians as people. But there is no middle ground here, you know. And those who are dependent upon that belief system for their sense of humanity and for their moral guidelines, unfortunately, you know, are so corrupted by that system that it may be impossible to reach them. What they are using to protect their humanity is actually destroying it. And I don't have the answer to what to do about that. But I will tell you this, I don't have compassion for people whose humanity has been destroyed. I only have compassion for people who are holding on to their true humanity.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Uranus, you have a question for John?
Yes, John, in your book you write about the savior complex and the victim-perpetrator bond that forms in abusive relationships. Personally, I've seen it a little bit differently as a triad, especially alive and well in group dynamics. Victim, perpetrator, and of course the necessary savior to come and rescue the victim. Would you expand on the savior complex, how you see this working, how it arose, took root, and remains rooted in the psyche of humanity?
Well, sure. You know, your formula is clear and cogent one, I would say. You make it a 3-point formula, the victim, perpetrator, and the savior. In my exposition of that formula, I show that the savior, the third element, is present. And the way that the complex mutates is that the savior can be either the victim or the perpetrator. In the toxic pathology of this Palestinian salvation system, the Messiah, who takes one form in Jesus Christ, is the savior, obviously, but is also the divine victim. In fact, he fulfills his mission by being the divine victim. So, savior is victim. But then you come to the book of Revelation, which is the final chapter in the script of this salvationism. And what do you see? Well, Jesus is there, enthroned in the clouds, as the judge of humanity, alongside the Father. So he is then the perpetrator, because he judges humanity and he enforces retribution, condemnation, and hellish punishment on the part of the human race that have not conformed to the Father's plan. So you see, it's the same formula. You want to break it down into 3, or treat it just as victim-perpetrator. The origin of this formula is the Zadok cult of the ancient Hebrews, which I mentioned earlier, was a splinter cult that caused a lot of problem in the Jewish world, because most of the Jewish people were happy to adapt. They kept to their own ways, but they didn't enforce their ways on anyone else. And they allowed the pagans to have their gods and goddesses. Everyone got along just fine. But there was this radical sect. This is the sect of the Dead Sea Scrolls, which are documents of vitriolic poison and hatred. That's not my opinion. Go look at them. Go read them. They are documents of genocide and of murderous apocalyptic hatred. And they were the documents of the Zadokim, or this radical sect that was the seed of this salvationist virus. It emerged in Palestine, probably around 600 or 700 BC. It mutated and grew. And then with what happened with Saul, or St. Paul, was that it went pandemic. Rather than being merely confined to a splinter group of Zionist fanatics in the Jewish community, was converted by Paul into a universal or Catholic belief system. And so through the medium of St. Paul, we have what I call the transference. And this is how that vicious, toxic, genocidal and geocidal ideology exploded through Roman Catholicism and spread to the entire world, infected the entire world. And today we are living in the terminal phase of that infection. Lanced, that's the word I was looking for. The abscess of that infection has to be lanced now if humanity is going to survive.
Well, it's interesting because looking at it from a dichotomy as opposed to a triad, it actually makes it more devious and convoluted, in my opinion. And on to my next question. There is much speculation these days about an upcoming ascension of humanity, often with ET, UFO intervention, or salvation. Maybe it is a matter of linguistics, but I wonder if this sort of thinking is a distraction at best or an arcanic manipulation at worst. I tend to see this as another example of dissociation, a separating that is intended to break our relatedness and relationships with each other, animals, plants, and Gaia. Is the linguistics around ascension different from humanity's co-evolution with Gaia and our soulful desire to go deeper, return, remember our bodies, minds, relationship with Gaia? Would you comment on this?
It's pretty much as you say. It's a complex of dissociation, long in the making. It's an archontic manipulation. Ascension is a call to a dissociation from the source of life. You know, we are such fortunate creatures because among all the animals on the earth, we all depend on the earth itself as our source. But we, among all those animals, can turn to the source and can have a deep and interactive relationship with the source. Ascension and all the claptrap and accessories and promises of ET salvation that go along with it takes us away from that. Our salvation, if you want to use that tainted word, is not in ascension. It's in immersion. Immersion. When you experience the divine luminosity, the living luminosity of the planet, the organic light, when you experience that and you encounter Gaia directly, you are in a state of total immersion. You are immersed in your own cellular electrochemical instrument to the degree that you are in complete ecstasy. Gnosis is cognitive ecstasy. When you see the organic light, when you meet the goddess, when she breathes on you, you are immersed in ecstasy. This ecstasy is our salvation. In this ecstasy is everything we want, everything we long for. It's the final remembering. It's love. It's pleasure. It's discovery. It's wisdom. It's delight. It's everything that is beautiful and true about being a human being. And anything that takes us away from that with the promise of a non-human or extra-human solution is a lie.
Thank you for that. That's obviously from your heart, and I appreciate it, John.
Thank you for your question. Also
Thanks,
from
John.
your heart.
Yes.
Thank you, John. We're on the home stretch. We're going into
Sure.
the rights. We're going to the rights actions section. You're in a question.
All right, yeah, okay. All right.
Are you ready for this? Okay. Cliff High's latest article on halfpasthuman.com, he wrote, "You are dead. They murdered you, and you need to get beyond the anger that this knowledge brings. There is yet work you must do." Then he went on to write, "You are murdered. This is your power." These words immediately brought to my mind an initiation process of the Dagara people of Africa and other various indigenous cultures, which necessarily include facing death both existentially and physically. Since the transpersonal Pluto moved into Capricorn in 2008, I have felt that we are approaching a time of mass initiation, a rite of passage, if you may, and this would bring about a process for humanity as a whole. Since then, we began to see the breakdown of structures and systems, be those financial, cultural, national, religious. Along with these destructions, personal beliefs and identities have been challenged, if not crushed. I sense this process is leading on to dismemberment of ego structures. People's sense of who they are and what they thought the world was is collapsing. Then throw in earth changes, solar activity, destruction, and potential mass death. Is humanity approaching the potential for moving to an impersonal, selfless, freeing, mythic life and able to allow the divine to live through us? What are your thoughts on this, John?
Wow. Well, I like to emphasize that a Telestes, a teacher, shaman, guide from the mystery school, could be a man or a woman, because it was a totally egalitarian system. That a Telestes is called that because it means I am one who is aimed. And to be aimed is a beautiful, beautiful feeling. To be aimed. And the question is, what can we be aimed by? So I think I would not exactly say that there's a mass initiation process going on, because I'm not sure. This is the first time that humanity has ever been at the threshold where it is right now. In fact, last month on the 19th, a momentous event happened regarding Gaia's reconnection to the Pleroma Center, the galactic core. So we're in an unprecedented moment of change and breakdown. So I'm not going to predict, certainly I never predict, and I want to leave the range, this opportunity wide open. But I will say that direction is important. We are a species that needs to go in a certain direction. We just can't go into independence without having a goal. And if Telestes is guided by the story of Sophia, so I strongly encourage people to learn this story and to realize that we are now in the 9th episode when she makes her correction, and we take our role in that correction, or not, you know. To go back to the analogy of the mothership, I like this, and I think I'm going to use it.